Hello, you're on the Liberty Ukraine channel, and today our guest is Eliseevich, a businessman and active political blogger. Recently, the hottest topic in international media has been the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the role of the United States in all of this. Today, it's important for all of us to understand what stage these negotiations are really at, what decisions are on the negotiating table, and what security guarantees Ukraine might receive. That's exactly the topic we want to discuss today with my colleague Tatiana and with Eliseevich.
Hello, Veronica. Hello, Tatiana.
Welcome to our channel. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and leaving us comments. I encourage those who haven't subscribed yet to do so, and please subscribe to Eliseevich's channel.
Thank you for the question. As you can see, the negotiations are going on intensively and tensely, and this doesn't stop, and our negotiation team is working constantly. The security guarantees proposed by President Trump are unprecedented, and no one could have ever dreamed of such security guarantees. Therefore, not agreeing to these conditions would simply be a big mistake. I saw yesterday, or rather last night in Ukraine, Zelensky made a statement. We do not agree to recognize Donbas either de jure or de facto. This is manipulation. No one is demanding Ukraine recognize Donbas as Russian de jure or de facto. We're talking about the withdrawal of troops, turning this piece that we control now into a free economic zone. Nothing more, nothing less. Russia will have more influence there due to their strength, but to say this is some kind of... We're revisiting the question of capitulation. It's awful, everything's gone, none of that is true, and Zelensky got an ultimatum. This is our best offer. Accept now and we'll do it before Christmas. Only a week remains. You accept the offer, we sign the peace agreement, and everything goes well from there. Or you refuse and keep fighting on your own.
But what's the situation? Peskov spoke today and said that they are not ready for a truce, they are only ready for a full peace. It's as if Ukrainians are now going for a truce, and Russia is afraid that we'll regroup and continue the war with them.
No, that's completely different. There was a proposal, I don't remember by whom, a truce for the Christmas holidays. That's what it's about, that they don't agree to accept it, and it was clear they wouldn't accept it, but it was worth trying, as always. A framework agreement needs to be signed before the new year, which implies a ceasefire, so people can peacefully celebrate the new year and all the holidays. Next year, active diplomatic work continues. No one is shooting, and we are gradually getting out of this war. The roadmap will be simple. When you sign this framework agreement, it implies a roadmap that will need to be followed, and as soon as it's signed, we carry it out from start to finish without question. America is the guarantor. I won't comment on Russia. No one can guarantee their actions, but we must do everything correctly. We must prevent situations where they claim Zelensky didn't agree or Ukraine is to blame. Such scenarios should be eliminated.
They've already tried this, but as you can see, we have no conclusion or result. And before we move on to the next question, I want to clarify with you, what is a free economic zone? These are the territories from which Ukrainians are supposed to withdraw their troops and Russians are not supposed to enter. Who Zelensky is asking will control and manage these territories, and what kind of economic zone is it if it's a scorched field and there's practically nothing there?
Good question. America hasn't explained what it is, but I'll tell you in advance what a free economic zone is and how I see it. So, and believe me, that's pretty much how it will be if it comes to that. The fact that it's scorched earth there, you're right, it's unfit for living. But that doesn't prevent legally, for example, registering a business there. So banks will be registered there, accounts will be registered there, banking companies will be registered there, and companies will do business there, meaning they don't have to be physically present. This is a normal practice with no taxes. Of course, there will probably be some strict conditions written there, and it won't be available to everyone, which is a big mistake. But this is roughly how it should function, so money will be generated there, and that's how it will all work. For physical control, I'd give it to the United Nations or even NATO. Let them handle it, since there are many such examples worldwide. Tatiana, you and I, for example, have already discussed the Brukov district in Bosnia and Herzegovina about 5 times. There are plenty of such cases in the world. It's unfortunate things have reached this point, but given the situation, I wouldn't call it a catastrophe. That's why we need an economic zone. But the question is, why do you think Zelensky doesn't understand that this is beneficial, that this is good? I mean, he understands and realizes that this is a great offer. We need to focus on elections. Elections, if I agree now, then tomorrow Poroshenko and Tymoshenko will jump out from the bushes. They'll accuse Zelensky of surrendering the country and call him a traitor, saying he'll lose the elections. He'll lose anyway, but he still thinks he'll win. That's the whole reason.
Dennis, you mentioned the deadlines, that Trump is setting clear deadlines, that he wants to get involved before Christmas. He wants to sign a peace agreement before Christmas, if you allow me, I'll quote. Recently, Politico also published an article. Ukraine has only a few days to accept the United States proposal on security guarantees. It is also time limited. I would like to clarify with you, what specific security guarantees does the United States mean in this context?
This is similar to Article 5 of NATO. Simply put, it means that if Russia launches another full-scale invasion, America will fight for Ukraine. It might sound dramatic, but we can rely on weapons and money. I'm not sure anyone will send American soldiers here, but in every other way, it will be similar and to the fullest. Let me put it this way, not just like America and Israel, but their allies. That's what I want, to be allies with America. That is, when military turmoil starts in Israel, incredible amounts of weapons arrive, America fully takes Israel's side, and so on. Maybe that suggests American fighter jets will mostly operate in the sky. Honestly, it's best to avoid this entirely and forget what war is. Because if it happens again, it won't be like it is now.
Allow me to clarify. The United States and the European Union, according to the information I have seen, are taking on a legal obligation in accordance with international procedures to take measures to restore peace and security in the event of a future attack. So specifically, have you seen any information that troops will be deployed, weapons will be used, that American troops will come here and use weapons that Ukrainians don't know how to operate? Will European troops enter Ukrainian territory, or will they just gather for meetings, for congresses, and call for peace? And also provide intelligence data and maybe a little money. How do you personally feel about this?
Are you asking how this will look regarding security guarantees? American or European soldiers will never fight in Ukraine. That's why Europe sees Ukraine as the shield of Europe. Do you understand that? It will be something like how Germany sent us helmets in the first days. It's like, hang in there, we're with you in spirit. That's how it will be, as has happened before in world history. I want to remind viewers that even if we joined NATO, anyone can read Article 5, which everyone mentions. It does not guarantee that allied countries will participate in armed resistance. They are obligated to provide weapons, they are obligated to provide money, they are obligated to give maximum assistance, even humanitarian aid. I think it says they must help, even beyond military actions. So we could say tomorrow, France, Germany, let's go. Bombing Russia, nothing like that will happen. Trust me, no one wants to be in this war with Russia. Everyone knows that. Why would anyone want that? What sane president would want his people to be bombed if it can be avoided? We're not saying there's some new Hitler. Putin is not Hitler. Putin likes comfort. We've said this more than once already. He's a guy who lives in luxurious houses, on yachts, and leads a lavish lifestyle. He doesn't need any bombings personally. He doesn't want to shoot nukes from a bunker. He's just that kind of person, that kind of villain, and that's how he behaves.
We can imagine such a situation in our minds, of course, that these security guarantees are somewhat similar to the ones we have now. And since the president is now Donald Trump, he is making efforts to end the war in Ukraine. It's beneficial for him, not just because he cares about Ukrainians, though he might also care. And if we imagine this situation where the security guarantees are the same, the aggressors are the same, our government is the same, but in power, it's no longer Donald Trump, but the Democratic Party in America. But then?
Well, of course, we can't guarantee a Republican victory in the next elections, although I'm convinced of it, 99.9% as of today. That's why I told Veronica, it's best not to allow that and just put it out of your mind. If we go back to our old ways and God forbid, another war comes in 5 years. What has happened now, even though horror is happening and has happened This will seem like nothing, because if this is allowed to happen again, Ukraine won't survive. And people are already disappointed with how the government acted and how it continues to treat the military. Yesterday, I talked to a rehabilitation specialist whom my followers and I have helped, and we continue to help. He says that one person has had 28 surgeries, and today he is rehabilitating him. This is just one of the cases. And there are many things like that which I don't want to talk about on air. I mean, it can't be like this. The state can't treat people heroes like this. That's why, when it comes to security guarantees, I insist on only one thing. The best guarantee of security is a rich, strong Ukraine, not calculations. Americans and Italians will help, and life in Ukraine will change. Freedom, capitalism, and growth. Stop suppressing individuality. Give people every opportunity to realize themselves, and no war will happen. We also talked about legalizing firearms according to the Swiss model. If everyone keeps a gun safely at home, no sane or suicidal person would launch a ground operation. Everything else depends only on us. Poland has grown wealthy, buying Patriots, F-35s, about 150 high-mobility artillery rocket system from America, and weapons from South Korea. First, they got rich, now they're building up their defenses. Of course, in the process, we need to create a professional army. By the way, these discussions are happening right now. Remember my words. These discussions are happening. Thanks to Trump. Was it 600 or 800,000? He let Ukraine have an army by making a deal with Putin. Trump might allow even 2 million troops if Putin agrees. People should do the math. They should consider what maintaining 600,000 people means. That's tens of billions a year. Also, with 600,000 men under arms in peacetime, who will work? So how is the economy supposed to function? It turns out that from the age of 18, a man should only dream about the army. But what about everything else? There's an immediate imbalance. You see, that's our problem. It's a layering of mistakes. One mistake is made, then another comes from it, and then a third one after that. At that point, nothing can be saved, and we start putting out fires. Well, not us, but the officials, and that's how it goes. Today, it seems the Ministry of Social Policy is announcing a new tax for reconstruction in Ukraine. Later, they didn't deny it, and she said it. You sit and think, how can this be? How can this be? What kind of reconstruction tax is that? Taxes are suffocating both people and businesses in Ukraine. So that's what everything depends on if this keeps going on. So whatever they signed for us, France and Great Britain also signed for Poland. But then Hitler got involved, and that was it. Nothing happened in 1939. The point is something else. It's about us, trust me.
So I want to ask you, do you tend to think that if we continue as we are economically, if we accept this peace offer now because we have no other options, since no one is choosing anything else, then in the event of a Russian attack, we could completely lose our country. Because it would be hard to gather soldiers, and volunteers will also be hard to organize. And maybe this international aid won't be the same as it is now. So do you admit such an extreme risk or not?
Even if the aid is like it is today, it still won't save us. Or if we don't radically reformat the state after this war, it's just a countdown to another war or worse. Or another catastrophe will happen. We've had revolutions and so on, meaning something like that. Something that causes a breakdown in the country. It all doesn't just happen for no reason. And now we see that everything everywhere is wrong here. Everything everywhere is completely wrong. Not 99%, but 100%. And when people see this, because just yesterday I posted a poll on my Telegram channel from the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, or someone, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology. Which party will you vote for? The Azov party, the Beletsky party, the Zaluzhny party, well, they just didn't draw the Yermak party. These parties don't even exist in reality. That's one. Second, how can you, I tell people this, talk about it in surveys? I vote for such and such party, but do you know their views or ideology? What if they're communists or fascists? I'm speaking generally, not about anyone in particular. There's also the absurd trend of naming parties after people like Zelensky or Zaluzhny. People fall for a leader, vote for him, and then nothing else seems to matter. If this continues, it's just a countdown to another disaster or war. I'm not even mentioning that this parliament will collapse and stop functioning within 6 months. We need ideological parties, and people should understand it like this. I want this, this, and this in Ukraine. Who is offering this? What is the program? So I vote for them. Until I see a program and understand the party's ideology, I can't even vote for anyone in polls. In my view, that's how a reasonable person thinks. An American wouldn't say, I'm for those guys, though I don't know who they are or what they stand for. Here there are Republicans, Democrats, a small libertarian party. People know who is who and what they stand for. It's an ideological struggle, but in Ukrainian, it's about who spends more, charms more, and deceives more. That's all, and that's what causes disaster.
People, I urge you to subscribe to our channel. While Veronica moves on to the next question, I'll tell you that she's conducting this in Russian. I communicate with the guests in Ukrainian, so you'll have access to communication with the guests in both formats. And what's important is that, for example, in my mind, associations work when a person comes and talks about what they're offering. I already remember this person by their last name and the ideas they bring. So, well, to say that we can't associate ourselves with a hero, with a certain person, well, it's impossible, because if you tell me the last name, I already remember what this person stands for, you know?
No, that's right. You're saying a person is associated, after all, a leader, obviously. Should be. A leader is associated with a leader, but you have to know what this leader stands for. Currently, Zaluzhny Valery Fedorovich, the commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, leads the ratings. Let's set that aside. Right now, some people consider him good, some bad. We are not judging what Zaluzhny stands for in politics. I read he is definitely for the war. He definitely believes that either Russia disappears from the face of the earth or Ukraine does. So I can say that the person does not live in reality, but somewhere in fantasies, with all due respect to his military background. And what does Zaluzhny suggest? That Ukraine should prepare for war? Sorry, not my candidate if he doesn't talk about super economic reforms, really radical ones, about a change of paradigm. He believes Ukrainians are meant to be happy, prosperous, and have a future. Thank you, that's not for me. Maybe it suits someone. Maybe someone thinks, yes, we need a military man, more military people. Well, okay, let's see what happens.
I would also like to bring up a very interesting and important topic for us. It's about the frozen Russian assets, specifically going back to what the Polish Prime Minister Tusk recently stated. He said that the Americans might be interested in using the frozen Russian funds differently, possibly even using part of that money for themselves. I'd like to understand what options are being discussed regarding the use of these funds.
Well, in general, 100 billion is specified. There are 300 billion in total. 100 billion is being allocated to a fund for Ukraine's recovery, and 100 billion is being taken from Putin's money. America is adding something, and Europe is contributing something as well. And this fund is operating, and it's actually a profitable fund. There's a lot being considered there, but they're looking at real business. What does Tusk do? He serves the globalists and constantly comes up with inflammatory topics and pushes unrealistic ideas. Europe will not take this money from Russia if it does so. This is a precedent that changes everything in history forever. This is once again a response from Putin. I'm not even mentioning that this disrupts peace, meaning it starts some kind of commotion again. You see, Belgium is specifically facing this issue. They understand the consequences, basically. Behind the scenes, everyone in Europe understands this. It's just, I repeat, the globalists. Tusk is one of them. Agitators who are always coming out with provocative statements. They also have this Sikorsky. They're always making provocative remarks. Just out of spite, that's it. They see Ukraine as a country that's always at war. We had debates here with Kulpa, like Ukraine is the shield of Europe, you keep fighting until Russia falls apart. I asked the question, okay, tell me, how can Ukraine keep fighting for another 3 years? Or maybe 5? So Russia is bad, is Putin part of Europe? No. So how will Ukraine keep fighting? There's no answer. Besides the fact that the whole broadcast was full of lies, saying that China suffered less than Europe from Trump's tariffs. Thank God people in the comments used AI and realized they'd been lied to the whole broadcast. That's what Tusk is doing too. Their interest is that they live peacefully while we are in flames, but my interest is for everyone to live peacefully. Let's all live peacefully, and we will be just as civilized as you. Treat us as equals, not as inferiors. Fight Putin yourselves while we enjoy life. No, that's absolutely unacceptable.
Trump has also repeatedly stated, including just recently, that this time Ukraine is closer to peace than ever before. But against this backdrop, various Telegram channels have already started joking that he repeats this literally every month. How should we regard this statement at the moment?
Well, everything is going as it is. Let's go. That's how the negotiations are going now, with our military on one side and people in military uniforms from the American side working with maps. This has never happened in any negotiations. This is a very specific conversation where professionals are sitting and probably already calculating how to withdraw, how to deploy troops, how to slow things down further, and they are analyzing all of this. This has never happened during such substantial talks, which is why I can say we're closer than ever to peace. Zelensky has publicly accepted all conditions except the Donbas issue. Some conditions, like Donbas, remain non-public, even about NATO. I assure you, if everything keeps going the way it is today, by the end of December, you'll see it on the telethon on YouTube. Their experts, the ones they control, will come and talk about it. Yes, even without NATO, it's good. Yes, this is better than NATO, so there will be a change in rhetoric. For years, I argued we need a neutrality like Austria, armed and cooperating with NATO, but not joining since they won't accept us. If they accepted us, I would have been the first to shout and say, let's join NATO many years ago, but that's not happening. So there are concrete negotiations going on. When people laugh at Trump, I know we and the commentators think we're the smartest, but our country and these people are actually in trouble. Yet we mock Trump, who is successful in a thriving America. Russians are the same, and what scares me is our people are becoming like them.
The question that interests me the most right now is how the war will end and how we will live afterwards, and what people are saying. They're talking about the financial aspect. I'm interested in whether we're being deceived or told the truth. So we understand now that if we end this war and there is this peace agreement, then 100 billion will be allocated from the frozen Russian assets. America will earn 50 on this, and we will have something to finance our needs. If we don't sign this peace agreement, then we won't get this money, these reparations, these 100 billion won't be paid.
If we don't sign, everything collapses and the war goes on.
And the war continues. Yes, the war continues. And then the European Union will allocate money to us. The European Union will give us a loan, because right now they say our only hope is the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, because they are looking for money for us. We have nothing to pay pensions with, and later salaries for the military. So in any case, if we agree to this peace deal, the financial danger for us disappears.
If we don't understand or agree with the question, you're saying it goes away.
In any case, whether we agree or not, financially, our country will continue to live at least as it does now.
No, of course not. Look, we need $100 billion or euros a year, but Europe doesn't have that money, so they're considering it. Let's seize Putin's assets and look for more elsewhere. Let's say the stars align and they find 100 billion there. What happens to Ukraine in a year? And do you think that if the peace talks fall through, let's say because of us, meaning we don't agree to something, do you understand how Putin will keep bombing? He will want revenge. He's that kind of person, pure KGB. Believe me, negotiations continue, but he'll keep bombing. Thank you. And we need to proceed based on who we're dealing with. We can't remove him right now, unfortunately, and even more so, we can't do anything else to him. So let's deal with this situation as it really is. If we don't sign the agreement, I'm not trying to scare anyone or anything like that. I'm just saying it as it is. If we don't sign, if we walk away and keep fighting, I honestly don't know what will happen then, because I just don't know how people will react to that. People are already there now. I know of a case in a major Ukrainian city where people protested after being without electricity for 2 days. Small children, elderly parents. This is already a humanitarian issue. And an initiative group of people went to the mayor saying, let's do something about it. A representative from DTEK was there, and a few of the most active people agreed to hold a sort of meeting. At the meeting, a Security Service of Ukraine officer said your exemption would be revoked if you protested. Well, that's the main thing, right? If everything is done through terrorizing and suppressing citizens, it resembles Putin's Russia's methods. It's not all of you together, all in the same boat, let's do it for the people. No, it's again a group of officials sitting there, afraid of losing their positions, deciding who gets the electricity. That's what I see in all these videos. People don't have electricity, but nearby industrial enterprises do. Look, I'm for business, but it can't be that people are sitting without electricity while businesses have it. Maybe the mayor took a bribe, I'm just guessing, but it still shouldn't be this way. So is this real or is it fake? It's fake, because if it were real, a person would have the right to vote. This is part of the ideology. Either the state serves the people, or people are expendable to the state. You go fight, sit without electricity and keep quiet, or we'll deal with you. Don't say or discuss anything, or we'll deal with you. Well then, what is that? What is that then? That's North Korea, the Soviet Union, something like that. but definitely not about democracy. That's the point. Politicians, especially newcomers who take that stance, should speak out about this. They should discuss this instead of just saying they support good things and oppose bad things.
Well, you see, for example, today Kuleba spoke, or was it yesterday? Sorry. He says people will be in high-rise buildings and it will be hard for you since there's no electricity. The blackouts will continue. That's the message he gave to people. The option lets you do whatever you want with no suggestions. And what is the situation? If we take this step, what could be the best for us? Then how do we get access to fair elections and choose people who can reform the economy?
Tatiana, that's how it all works. If the majority, the critical mass, is 30% of the population, I'm not even going to say the majority. If 30% of the population specifically wants something, it will definitely happen. Here, 30% of us actively wanted it, they wanted it, and that's why it happened. I'm talking about the bad thing that happened. If 30% want reforms and to live like Western countries, it will happen. However, I see that 30% prefer living like in Russia, just with a different language and flag.
That's how I see it right now.
So basically, tighten the screws on us, ban things, put shackles on me, let the slave owner uncle tell me how to live because I'm afraid of this freedom. Right now, I'm reading and literally laughing at these comments, at everything that's happening under the video with Trump or someone else. To them, anyone who supports freedom is simply an enemy. Well, sometimes I join live streams, I won't say whose, but the audience is Russian. They write that Eliseevich is a Russophobe, uneducated, and other things, that I speak out against Putin. If I were shouting, Putin, you're awesome, you're great, you're the best, they'd be saying, oh my God, you're amazing, Eliseevich, we adore you. It's the same here. You need to get clear on what you want from life in Ukraine. Once you know, it'll happen. There will be a new political crisis soon. Right now, we're not even really discussing Zelensky with you today. By the way, Nawrocki spoke very poorly about Zelensky today. He says the president of Poland is our close neighbor and we're connected, but he won't talk to me, only to Western Europe. I think that's a big mistake. We should be friends with Poland. And moreover, Nawrocki is a good president. So what am I getting at? Currently, we rarely discuss Zelensky, though he's facing tough decisions. And I keep asking myself, looking at the media space, who will be the one to tell people about what's coming ahead? Is America's peace plan really right for us? Who will explain that neutrality benefits us now? Propagandists won't, and no one will explain why free economic cooperation is good. Petrov and people like Masichok Natalka just talk about it. They won't actually explain it. They might say that, kill this one, jail that one, you're the wrong kind of Ukrainians. And now Zelensky will face the question, who will explain things to the people? Well, it's not going to be Podolyak either, right? He's completely discredited. And here he is again. Even from this perspective, he's in a tough spot. Agreeing to peace will still leave some people unhappy. These people should come out and explain why. It's the right thing to do. We come to the point where there's no one left to explain to reasonable people. He doesn't work with reasonable people. Everyone is his enemy. So even here, he's in a hopeless situation.
The people are saved. I want to tell you, please come to our channel, opinion leaders, come talk with me, with Veronica, subscribe to our channel, everyone, and write us comments. Now, Dennis, here's my last question for you. If, for example, well, let's assume the worst, we choose a government like the one I am talking about now. And if America doesn't want to cooperate with such a government, for example, that could happen. Then we'll say that the Americans deceived us. They're cooperating with Russia. They're developing the Arctic. We were used, left alone with our own problems.
Yes, your comrade was on air in our joint broadcast and said that Trump is actually Putin's partner, and it turns out America is saving Russia from collapse. And this has happened before. No, Tatiana, if we look at the kind of government we have now, if you're talking specifically about Zelensky, then I won't even need to say much. In that case, it's a complete defeat. If people want another dictatorship, let them have it, but count me out. If there's any progress, we can discuss it. Understand? Without freedom of speech and free elections, everyone should have the opportunity to say what they want, express their views, and vote or run for office if they want. But right now, our society is restricted. There's only a right or wrong view. You're either for this or that. If you have the wrong opinion, you're no longer our friend, not Ukrainian, and essentially nobody. It can't be like that. We should consider different views. While I dislike many opinions, I'm still willing to discuss and explain why mine is right and others are wrong. But here, everyone is intimidated and scared. I have a feeling Zelensky plans to hold the elections by excluding all his political opponents. Yes, Veronica?
And what do you mean by freedom of speech? What other key functions would you see in this? What specifically is currently lacking in our country?
Well, look, freedom of speech is the foundation of democracy. Everyone should have the opportunity, if they want, to go on YouTube and say what they want to say. Everyone should be free to speak at home, on the street, or to neighbors without fear. That is, just breathe freely and know one thing, like in America. No matter what point of view you have, believe me, there are also some real crazies here. There are communists here, but they aren't killed. Nothing is taken from them, the FBI doesn't freeze their accounts, and nothing happens to them. But that's how it's supposed to work. Thankfully, under Hoover, the FBI suppressed communists, preventing this plague from reaching America. That's freedom of speech, meaning you have the right to think and say whatever you want. There is public discussion, and when there is public discussion, even like the one I had with this Kolpa on your channel, people watched. Some probably took his side for sure, some took mine, and that's it. But I don't go and kill Kolpa's supporters because of this. I don't. And now, if we're talking about television, for example, well, let's put it this way. They definitely won't let people like that in, but even if they do allow them in soon, they'll be influencing part of society. Just like him, that's the enemy, so something must be done to him. But if this is excluded from the broadcast like it is now, let's imagine such a situation. These debates with Kulpoy would have made it onto the telethon, and I assure you, half of Ukraine would have said this is just a script, this is an unsubstantiated point. He lied everywhere, he sat there for an hour and a half and lied about everything, and it turns out that's kind of the reason why there's no discussion today. The task now, as with any dictatorship and with Putin as well, is not to provide people with the full breadth of information. And if a citizen doesn't have the full breadth of information, how is he supposed to vote? Without information, the decision is already wrong. Citizens need to be given all the information, they take it all in, go to the polls, and vote like this. That's democracy. Ukraine hasn't lived a single day in democracy. Before there was some kind of quasi-similarity, but still it was democracy. At least they didn't silence people. That's how it all begins.
I'm curious how people can share their opinions with authorities. For instance, how can they now express support or opposition to these peace agreements? Maybe people want to share their opinion, but the military doesn't want to fight. To be specific, if we're talking about NATO, as we mentioned before, we can join NATO. The military wasn't asked whether they are ready to stay in this position right now, just for the sake of joining NATO or not. And there are many such questions where people aren't asked and things aren't clear to them. I want to get my message across to the authorities, but when they say to write to the deputies, it's like sending a letter into the void, because usually no one responds to it. What needs to be done so that people can communicate constructively with the authorities?
Today, we are already almost in the same situation as the Russians. We're just a little bit short of being there. Also, thank you, Wen. As a citizen of Ukraine, you can't do anything at all. There's no one to talk to. Whether you're right or not, it doesn't work. And only today do people have hope to rely on individuals who fight for their interests. Today, I only have the media at my disposal. Thank you. It's only here that I can somehow make an impact. And I do it if someone finds my views suitable. They subscribe, they write comments. So in order to visually see that there are many such people, and that's all for today. We can't call on people to go out, to fight, to go out and organize rallies. No. That's why today there are no other levers left. We've reached such a terrible point that today you can't even vote without elections. Well, I mean, you can't express your opinion or influence anything in any way. The referendum is set, voting is mandatory, so people will participate. So some people have been messing around for 6 years, almost 7 now, and now you go and vote. Well, if you give away Donbass in the referendum or not, what will you do? It's not the politicians and officials who are to blame. I'm speaking for the authorities. That's what's terrible about this. We messed up, got rich, and now you decide about Donbass. We could have avoided this issue entirely. In my last stream, I showed the Normandy meeting of 2019 and the issues that were discussed there. Putin is sitting there saying, if you follow the Minsk agreement, we'll sell gas cheaply. Can you imagine Putin offering Ukraine free gas for signing a peace deal? That's unthinkable. This shows the difference in positions. The question isn't whether Putin is bad. Yes, everyone knows who Putin is. But the real issue is that we need to act wisely from the perspective of the future. We can't break up Russia or move it somewhere else right now. So let's just be careful while Putin is still alive. And that's it. Just so we don't suffer any more or any less. That's actually how Europe acts. They're smart, they don't provoke him, avoid conflict, and handle him carefully. NATO will defeat Putin, that's clear. But they don't want a war on their own territory, and they're right about that. That's the whole point. That's why our position is weak, the citizens' position is weak, and right now things are only holding together because of the people who love Ukraine. At the front, in the rear, everyone does what they can, but if it weren't for the people, but many have become disillusioned. There are fewer and fewer such people now. Why do I think there won't be as many enthusiasts in 5 years? Everyone will be disappointed and say, well, we've already dragged out this war for the 14th year. Well, I would say the same myself. God forbid that happens. In 5 years, we should have $1 trillion gross domestic product. That's what we should be working on, not fighting a new war.
Thank you, Dennis, for sharing your opinion. We have thoroughly discussed the most pressing issues in both your space and ours. Thank you. I also join Tatiana's words. Subscribe to our channel and follow our announcements.
Thank you very much.